Hey everyone, welcome back to Geektopia Island. It's Kevin here, your host. We're going to be doing a little different today. Today I have with me the winner of the Austin ARG States tournament, Mr. Tristan Jackson.
Hi guys.
He's here with me talking about the deck that he took down there, and we're gonna delve into it and see what he did and what he's changed since that tournament, and we're gonna see what all this deck it gives you. Like it's and for those that don't know the deck, it's Gill the Gifted Conjurer, the green ruler from CFC, or not CFC.
Rare starter decks.
Yeah, the rare starter decks. Sorry, it's been a minute, but he's amazing. He does a lot, and with his unsealed ability, he does even more. So we'll delve into him, and then we'll ask some questions. All right, guys. So Gill, he judgments for 2 green and 1, so pretty standard judgment. Energize for a green. You can remove an elemental in your graveyard to produce a green. Spin this will to play a spirit magic chant. Play this ability once per turn. Cool. You can search for a gentle breeze elemental, put it in your hand if you tap him, or if you rest him. And then his ultra magic stone, his first ability is at the end of your turn, put the top card of your deck into your graveyard. Pretty standard. It's a little weird, his last ability, but it works for the long run. And we'll get to that as we go. So when he judgments, he turns into an 11/11 with barrier. That's probably the best part of this dude on his backside, is the barrier part of the standard. Then he can remove an elemental to add a green. Spin this only for spirit magics. And then if you would produce a will with this card, you produce that many plus 1 green. So on the backside he adds 2 green for 1 elemental. Cool. And then his other ability is put 2 cards from your remove zone that were removed by this card on the bottom of your deck in any order. Search your deck for a card revealed, reveal it, put it in your hand, then shuffle your deck, play this ability once per turn. That's the other ability on his backside that makes him super strong, because he gets to do a lot of stuff on his ruler side. Or on the J ruler side, I'm sorry. But as you can see, or as you saw in the video or the tournament list, he's all about elementals. That's his whole goal in life, is to mess with elementals and make them all amazing. Tristan went and capitalized on that pretty hard. So I'm going to let him talk about some of the dudes that he chose and why he chose the number that he did. So first off, let's talk about your win con. Inheritor Gil Lapis. What is this dude for?
Inheritor Gil Lapis is for absolutely everything in the deck. I would not be lying. In my opinion, he is the strongest Resonator in the current New Frontiers format. For starters, a 10/10 flying barrier would have been fine on its own for 4 mana.
Yeah.
Add in the fact that he can't be countered in this deck. We get a mystery counter, which I've thought about for sideboard tech, and we ramp ourselves and get bigger every turn. The guy's just insane. Between him and the ruler, those are really your only 2 win cons, so you do have to play very carefully to them though. Yeah.
I can attest, I've played against this deck quite a few times, and it's rough to deal with 2 giant barrier dudes. Just saying. They're hard to deal with. But he did have another sort of win con, and it caught a lot of people off guard, and that's the Leaf Knight. So he's a 2/2, or a 6/6, sorry, for 2 mana. You remove an elemental in your graveyard, he gets +2/+2, plays ability up to 2 times. And you can remove an elemental, he gains barrier. Why did you choose this guy over like the normal other cards?
So Leaf Knight's very good tech against anything aggressive. 6 or greater toughness is the magic number in this current format, as we've seen with Sherry and Kirik and so on and so forth. And Leaf Knight being able to be a 10/10 allows us to play a lot of offensive pressure as well as hold opposing things at bay. Like being immune to a red-green Sylvia on turn 2 is incredibly powerful versus Kirik. Being able to pick and choose where you want to block and what Resonator you want them to stay back with gives you a huge edge in the matchup and buys you a lot of time.
I like that. That makes sense, just being able to be like barrier, don't target me. Alright, so the elemental package. It's pretty crazy, but let's get through it real quick. So it looks like you got a Leaf Paladin to go get the Power Rangers, as you so called them.
Gotta assemble the Ranger team.
Yeah, the red one, there's a black one, a blue one, and a white one. And the Leaf Paladin goes and gets 1 of each color and puts it in your hand. Awesome. So he's pretty simple, that's most of his use. And then once he's in the yard, you can eat him for mana or whatever. That's his purpose. So you only run a one of like the red one, the black one, and the blue one. Why is that?
Well, they do have their value. And they each have two separate abilities, an Inheritance and a Banish ability. The Banish being more stronger or upgraded, and the Inheritance just being to practically get them in the yard. Whiteleaf is definitely the strongest. The Life Cane, as a lot of people have said about this deck, was the biggest nuisance at the ARG. There was, I think, a game in finals where I went down to 10 and ended the game at 35.
Seems good.
Yeah. The blue one bounces a Resonator cost 2 or less when you play it, or Inheritances to discard it and bounce a 1-drop. This card actually surprised me a whole lot, and I wouldn't be surprised to change any number of it because of how effective it is against Scheherazade. My big thing this weekend was being ready for Scheherazade and being able to bounce a Puppet Master in response, or a last audience to be able to swing through or not be forced to attack in an unfavorable situation came in way too many times. The black one is the weakest in my opinion. It banishes for -4/-4 to a Jet Resonator, or Inheritances for -2/-2. Is an absolute excellent combat trick, but aside from that, doesn't really do much. Redleaf is a beater. It's a 2-mana 6/6, which is the standard rate these days.
Yeah, pretty much.
Sacks to deal 5, which doesn't really kill much, or Inheritances for 3, which is more often used to just finish something off.
Is it hard to get them back after you've used them, or no?
No, really, you have to find the balance, and it's a very hard part of this deck, is finding a balance between just chucking them to your graveyard and exiling them to Gill or Inheritor, and saving them for cards such as Fifth Element, which is one of our premier removal spells in the deck.
Yeah. It's 1 mana, quick cast, revealing a number of elementals from your hand. This card deals 300 time to target J/Resonator for each card revealed this way. So after you assemble the team, you shoot that dude for 12 damage if you have them all. And if you have a green one as well, that's even more damage. But it's just, this card's ridiculous because you can hit a J.
At instant speed.
Yeah, it's a 1 mana, I'm gonna kill your J because I can. So it's just good for what it does. In this deck, it's super amazing. So I mean, okay, you have more counter spells than I can even think of. You have the normal 3 Severing Winds, the normal Faerur spells, they're always there. Everyone knows about those. But let's talk about the 2 that nobody ever really plays or sees. So we got Vanish.
Yes.
What's the Vanish?
Vanish is essentially just the cheapest Faerur counterspell we can play, being a spirit magic. Normally costs 3 green, remove an elemental, costs 2 green. Counter target spell. Yeah, counter target spell. So just 2 green. It gets really good on Gil's J Ruler side when it is a searchable 1 green counter target spell.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty hot.
A Faerur spell for anything in this game is a little silly.
Alright, you were telling me about this Laurite deletion magic and how strong it does. So, for those that don't know, deletion magic is 1 green and X. Quick cast, it's a spirit magic as well. Cancel target spell unless your opponent pays X. So what made you put this in over the normal like extra Faerur spell or extra Severing Winds?
Well, testing a lot for the ARG. Handling a turn 2 Puppet Master or turn 2 Sylvia or anything like that without using one of our better removal spells became a very big issue for this deck. And it really just harks back to the power of Whiteleaf. So in this deck, I always choose to go second if I have the choice. Or if I lose the draw or have the choice, whatever, so be it. A big play that a lot of people don't see is, and that I did many times, was Energize with my token, discard a Whiteleaf to gain 6, and then exile it to essentially create a Wall of Wind for my opponent's turn 1 or turn 2.
I like it.
Shutting that down creates a huge tempo swing back into your favor. You can just untap and play your Elemental or your Leaf Knight or your Leaf Paladin and then force them on the back foot to answer you.
Fair enough, fair enough. Alright, so the other counterspell we got, and it's not really a hard counterspell, is Laurite. I mean, he's there. That's what he does. He's always going to be there countering an ability or a spell or whatever. You know Laurite. But what most people don't realize is he has another ability that doesn't ever really get played in most decks because he's not played with spirit magics. But in this deck, he gets it. And he puts back 3, right?
Mm-hmm. 3 spirit
And
magics.
you get him back from your graveyard to your hand. I can't tell you how many times he wrecked me with doing this because he was just like, I have nothing. No, you don't get your come into play trigger on your Freyla or whatever you're playing. No, thanks, because I can remove the... Because all of his spells in his graveyard get to act as another spell. It's fantastic. That's what makes him Laurite so much better in this deck. So, but I want to jump into what... People ask you why you ran... Like, you had 3 final battles. That's kind of unheard of in nowadays meta. So what is the difference on 3 versus 2?
Really, the big difference on the 3 versus 2 was I wanted to draw in almost every matchup that I was playing, and the fact that we have silly sustain from White Leaf and recycling them with Gil's J-Ruler side, as well as another card that gains us life, makes it essentially free. So many times this weekend I would final battle for paying 22 life to kill Patrolling Guard Doll, or prevent them from flashing anything in on my turn to lock up the game, or any manner of things, and then later on your opponent asks you what you're at and you say, I'm at 30.
Yeah, been there, done that, dealt with that.
Yeah, so the huge life gain in this deck just propels us to play the extra copy.
I can definitely see where the gain in life helps that card out immensely in this deck. Alright, so you mentioned changes that you were going to do and that you have done since you played this deck at Austin. So yes. What were those changes that you made to the main deck?
A few of the changes were number cuts. We went down a Redleaf, down like a Gentle Breeze Elemental, I think, down a Vanish, and some other minor changes. And really what I wanted to add to the deck was offensive pressure, defensive tricks, and closing speed. In my tournament down there, I ended up at 2 wins, 0 losses, and 2 draws. Both the draws, a single copy of Winds of Vitality would have won me the game on the spot. So I finally went back to added those in, and I figured since I was adding those in, I wanted to go ahead and test everybody's new favorite 1-mana spell, Resuscitating Will, which is a 1-white that untaps or recovers target J Resonator, which with both of our win conditions being extremely large and having barrier, is extremely difficult to interact with at instant speed.
Yeah.
So your Gil that you've had in play for the 1 turn that's now a 12/12 becomes an 18/18, untaps and hits for 36.
Seems good. Seems a good way to close out the game. And then what's the last 2 cards that we got in the main deck that are different that I've seen?
The other is I added in a 1 of Flourishing Hope. Card is great value, prevents final battles, prevents...
I mean, y'all know how much we love that card on this channel, so it's gonna be there.
And then turns into value removal so that I might not have to waste something like a bad attack with a Leaf Knight into something, or a final battle when I don't need to.
Fair enough.
The other card that I actually had in this weekend that became a big player was Spiritual Guidance. For those of y'all that don't know, this card costs 1 Void and 2 Wind mana, and it is a spirit magic that is a sorcery speed. You draw 2 cards and then gain 100 life for each card in your hand. Now what makes this card particularly special in this deck is the fact that you can activate both Gil's front, remove an elemental from mana ability, and the one on the back in the same turn. So you can essentially make 1 green with an elemental, Judgment, make 2 more, have 3 floating, put both of them back, search this up, refill your hand, gain a little bit of life for your troubles.
Seems pretty good. Seems like a pretty good play. Alright, so your sideboard looks pretty wild. You got a lot of like 1-ofs and 2-ofs and whatever. So let's go through that real quick and what you play, what you bring in and for what you do for.
Check.
So like Faerur spell, what do you bring those in for, the extra Faerurs?
Faerur spell, I bring normally 2 copies in there with some matchups where I only boarded in 1, like matchups like Kirik. It's just a general, I need to win the counter war, I'm playing against Scheherazade. They're just one of the best counter spells in the format. Hits a broad variety of things, pump spells, kill spells. Just does what you need it to.
Fair enough. Next up, the Riula. I've not seen that Riula very many times, so I'm not sure what she does.
Riula Dragon Priestess is a double wind for a 6/6 with an ability enters the battlefield and puts all elementals from your removed area back into your graveyard so that we can reuse them again. She also has a side effect that came in handy once or twice of having elementals you cast cost 1 less. Which when we're playing our surprisingly 8/8 White Leaf for 1 and a white becomes a lot more value than we bargained for.
I'm down. Values are city. We love Value City.
Also, on the note of Value City, you do have the option, if you want to slot in a Viola the Dragon Priestess with both of their Awakening abilities for 1 green that searches the other and puts it into play. And an important note on those is you can stack them so that you can get whichever effect, the removing from graveyards or returning to graveyards, as you see fit.
Fair enough, fair enough. It looks like you got Winds of Salvation. That card's pretty fun because it removes a spell. So what did you use it against?
Winds of Salvation is the only answer in the format to countering Inheritor the Stars Gil Lapis because it does not cancel him, it just simply whisks him away from the stack.
There you go. So if you're playing against this, there's your answer.
Yeah, and then a lot of decks that can't interact with counter magic, it was good just to bring in tap extras of, anything like that.
Alright, and you got an extra Laurite just for the normal?
Yeah, just for the matchups where you really need it. Like I brought it in against AU because having something to counter that God's Art is too clutch.
Yeah, she's definitely a thing to fight. Alright, so Shade, I can already tell is for Scheherazade just because it stops Puppet Master. I mean, that's his purpose in life right now.
6 damage is a magic number.
Yeah. And then, but the Dragonoid, the Dragonoid card from the Scheherazade deck, what is that? I mean, I see them, but I'm not sure what they're for. Like, did they do good for you against Kirik?
They did really good. In my finals match, the last game, I drew both copies. One of them restricted his turn and limited what he could do with his counters, which is ultimately what led to me having so many outs on the final turn. I mean, also just countering a Fire Chant. My opponent happened to be playing Power Spike, the new deal 12 for 4, which was successfully countered by Last Days.
Fair enough, fair enough. Alright, so Elemental Uprising. I had a lot more faith in this card doing a lot more. I've been proven wrong. He told me from when he came back that it is not as good as I thought it was. So what is it for though?
Evil Elemental Uprising is great for the mirror match, and it's great as a silver bullet against a few other decks, mainly Scheherazade. Scheherazade has a lot of power in swinging the game either more in their favor or back into their favor with their judgment. And one of the nice things about Gil is that we have, like he said, a whole lot of 1s and 2-ofs in our board that mostly are spells, so they can just be found at a moment's notice with our elementals. So one of the big plays I did this weekend was my opponent was threatening to take back control of the game by judgmenting their Scheherazade, getting back a patrolling guard doll, and going and searching up their enormous effigy. So in response to that, shipped 2 elementals down to the bottom of my deck, found an Elemental Uprising, got their graveyard, removed 3 Spirit Magics, got back a Laurite, countered the Legend 5 trigger. So they essentially just made a 10-10. I recovered, searched for a 5th element, played a Leaf Paladin, Scheherazade's done.
That's a pretty good way to counter Scheherazade, I'll give you that. Alright, and then so the final 2 different cards looks like we have is a Scarlets Agony and a Miscalculation. So I'm assuming both those are there just to stop attackers, really, right?
Really, yeah. Scarlets Agony for the AU matchup. That was my top 4 matchup, and it was the biggest headache of the whole tournament. I completely neglected to test against AU, and it kind of showed. Took me a minute to figure out what I was doing, but in the end, finally drew the copy that we needed, saved ourselves for a turn, got through. It's also just generally good against aggro, cycles you through, untaps a dude or saves you some damage for a turn, which is really good when your opponent's making 9/9 PLELs.
Yeah, that card's a thing.
Miscalculation is just another newer tech card after the ARG that I brought in for some aggressive matchups or just as ways to deal with bigger threats that I don't necessarily want to waste a spell on.
Fair enough. Well, that is the deck, guys. It's been changed a little bit from what he played down there. Mostly he had other counter spells and stuff and some other stuff, but I think with the new changes, it's really strong in that it can just one-shot you and that, like, out of nowhere. And if you do play Gil, the biggest thing with Gil is he's very reactive of a ruler. So you got to make sure that you're on point on what you're doing. You got to make sure you know everything that's going on, and you know what's in your deck to deal with what you got. That's the biggest thing I've seen with him playing it, because I've watched him play it in our locals. I've watched him play it, just me and him playing. It's pretty wild of a deck. He's really fun in what he does. He's got a lot. He has a lot to bring to the game. I do think he's very strong and a good place to stop Scheherazade from being top dog. I mean, he's not the be all end all. He is. Yeah. You can deal with him. It's just very difficult. And the best thing I found to deal with a Gil Lapis Inheritor is to have a creature that can kill it with Death Touch or like destroy a Resonator when it gets stealth damage. Because I play Freyla, she's my bae. I'm sorry, it's just what I do. And Shade Assassin kills Garrett Gill pretty hard. Otherwise, he's pretty hard to deal with. I'm not gonna lie, he's just a thing. The lands, they're pretty simple, guys. He just changed it to 4 black-green stones, 4 green-white stones, and 2 of the green-black counterland stones, the little engulf stones. It's just simple, spot on, because the other colored elementals, Gil Lapis can play them because he removes elementals. You know, that works. But if you want to see the deck list, guys, for sure check it out. It's gonna be down below. Y'all are always more than welcome to come play on our locals whenever you get a chance if you're ever in the Amarillo area. But if y'all are or not, either way, Geektopia Island will be in Denver, the GP, so go ahead and check us out and make sure you come say hi to us there. Y'all have a wonderful night, guys. Alright, guys, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and also hit the bell that gets you notifications on all of our content. Also, if you need the latest deck tech, it's going to be to the right, and if you need the latest gameplay videos, it's going to be down below.